If you haven't yet seen my review of the Cen.Grand Silver Fox headphone amplifier here, then you might want to pause this video, use the link down in the description to go back and get a sense of what we're talking about here. Because this is a $4,000 headphone amp that's built kind of like a speaker amp on the inside. As I said in my review, there's lots to like about the sound of this headphone amp, there's also a few quirks and a few nuances to be aware of. And so go check out the full review if you want to understand everything that's going on in here. Because in this video, what I'm going to focus on is comparing the Silver Fox with the Enleum AMP-23R headphone amp and also speaker amp, and then also with the Burson Soloist 3X GT. And so without any delay, let's jump in and start comparing the Silver Fox first of all to the Enleum AMP-23R. The Enleum AMP-23R comes in with a retail price of $6,250, making it $2,250 more than the Silver Fox, so it's a big jump in price. As I alluded to before, the Enleum AMP-23R is a dedicated speaker amp that also has a very high quality headphone amp stage within it as well. Where this gets particularly interesting is that both amplifiers use the exact same transistors, which is kind of like the main amplification piece of their circuits. And that is that they're both using the Hexacon lateral MOSFETs. There are twice as many of them in the Silver Fox because it's fully balanced compared to the single-ended design of the Enleum AMP-23R. But I was very interested to hear how they compared when they're both using a similar kind of core to the amplification stage. Setting up using the Chord TT2 with the M scaler as my DAC, feeding into both of the amplifiers via XLR, and then listening via the Focal Utopia 2022 edition. And one of the tracks I used for this test was Number 5 by Jesse Cook. One of the first things that I noticed was that the Silver Fox is a little bit smoother overall than the Enleum, but the transients are still quite crisp. And by transients, I mean things like plucking of guitar strings, any of those kind of leading edges of notes, those first moments of attack, those first moments of sound that you hear, those are still crisp and articulate from the Silver Fox, but they're smoother than they are from the Enleum. In the upper registers, so sort of from your upper mid-range into your treble, I do find that the Enleum has a bit more texture to it, but that does also mean that it's a little bit harder to listen to sometimes. It's not as polite as the Silver Fox, and I don't mean polite in a negative way. What I mean is that the Silver Fox is consistently very refined, very smooth, whereas I feel like the Enleum AMP-23R can get occasionally a little bit too textured, I guess I'd say, and therefore not as easy to listen to. Having said that, what it also means is that I feel like the Enleum is a bit more transparent, in the sense that I feel like there's less between me and the music. I sometimes feel like the Silver Fox is filtering things a little bit, and I mean filtering in the sense that it's trying to refine it for me, it's trying to improve the signal for me perhaps. Not that it's overly messing with the sound, but I just feel like the Enleum is saying, this is what came from the DAC, I've amplified it, here you go. Whereas with the Silver Fox, I kind of feel like it's going, I've gotten this from the DAC, I've given it a bit of a polish for you, now here you go. Now that could be good or it could be bad, I'll leave that up to you. My point is that both have quite different sounds. The Silver Fox is easier to listen to across anything and everything. The Enleum AMP-23R just comes across a bit more honest to me sometimes. Listening then to the bass from both of these amplifiers, and I feel like there's a bit more heft, a bit more weight and punch from the Silver Fox. That's not to say that the Enleum AMP-23R is lean or analytical, but there's a nice sense of body and authority to the sound from the Silver Fox. Overall though, it's the AMP-23R that brings the music to life. I kept feeling as I did this comparison that the Silver Fox, as I said before, is polite. It's not polite in a bad way, it's not killing the life of the music, but the Enleum AMP-23R is allowing it even more space to breathe, more space to be energetic, lively, dynamic, etc. And that's where I think for me, the Silver Fox is a headphone amp that's really going to suit the more kind of lively headphones. Headphones that are already bordering into having a bit too much energy, particularly in the top end, that's where the Silver Fox is going to be great. And that's where for me, I can see it pairing beautifully with headphones like the Abyss headphones, the Susvara, the original Focal Utopias, Sennheiser HD 800 or 800S, all of those that can be a little bit strong in the treble. That's where the tonality and the character of the Silver Fox could be absolutely wonderful. On the other hand, the AMP-23R for me feels like it just pulls ahead in technicalities. And it should. It's $2,000 more than the Silver Fox. It should be a better headphone amp. It would want to be a better headphone amp, and I do think it is. It just feels like it's technically a little bit more transparent. It brings the music to life, or not so much brings the music to life, but allows the music to live more. Whereas I sometimes think the Silver Fox maybe is a bit too complicated on the inside and is getting in the way a little bit of the music. As I said, it still sounds wonderful. It's a beautiful amplifier, very, very enjoyable. I would love to hear it with something like a Susvara or an Abyss 1266. But as it is, with the headphones I had on hand being the Meza Elite, the Focal Utopia, and the ZMF Caldera were my main 3 testing headphones, with those 3, it was consistently the Enleum that I wanted to reach for. And so somewhat unsurprisingly, the Silver Fox hasn't outclassed the much more expensive Enleum. And so now let's talk about how it goes against some more level competition. One of the other headphone amps that I often go to as a reference point, and it's a headphone amp that I love, is the Burson Soloist 3X GT. If you're not familiar with the 3X GT, they recently went through an upgrade or a sort of a facelift if you like, on the inside at least. And so this version that I'm talking about is the 2023 version of the Soloist GT. And part of that upgrade or facelift was that you can also now swap the internal power supply modules. And so the version that I'm actually using for this testing and comparison is the 2023 GT with the upgraded Silent Power 2 modules. Now what that means, if you're not familiar with all that, is it's basically the best version of the GT that you can get, and because some of these bits and pieces you have to pay more for, what we're now talking about is about a $3,000 amplifier in the GT. Once we include things like the power supply and the power modules, we're talking about $3,000 there, up against about $4,000 in the Silver Fox. The 3X GT that I used for testing is currently in my rack over there. It's a regular go-to for me, but what I've got here just for a demonstration of size, that's the Burson Soloist 3 GT, that's the single-ended version. And that gives you an idea straight away of the sheer difference in size and weight for that matter between these headphone amps. In terms of power, it's also no contest. At 30 ohms, the Silver Fox will deliver twice as much power as the Burson will. In fact, maybe more than that. I don't have the numbers in my notes, but the point is that the Soloists are very, very powerful headphone amps, but they still pale in comparison to the power available from the Silver Fox. With that said, you don't really need that power for anything except a Susvara, an Abyss 1266 or similar headphones, and even then, you really don't need that level of power because this still has plenty. Now all of that is not to say that one is better or worse than the other at this stage, we're just talking specs at this point, but I wanted you to see the sheer difference in size and scale, because that might be relevant to some of you. And so talking about how they sound, once again like in the last comparison, I was using the Chord TT2 with the M scaler as my DAC. I was feeding XLR inputs into the Silver Fox so it had the maximum benefit. I put RCA into the Soloist GT because I know that they perform equally well whether it's RCA or XLR. And for this test, I decided to mix things up and use the Meza Elites. One of the tracks that I used was Surprise by Niles Barkley. And listening in the normal mode, which was my favourite for the Silver Fox, you'll have to check out the full review if you want to understand what I mean by normal mode. It's got 4 different modes. Listening in normal mode, what I found was the Silver Fox gave me a wonderful sense of clarity, separation, definition in the image, and the sound was wonderfully smooth at the same time. Moving over then to the $1,000 cheaper Soloist 3X GT, and what I heard then was actually an increase in clarity, an increase in separation, and a tighter, punchier sound. It was actually quite shocking to me that, in my opinion, the Burson was still actually clearly stronger than the Silver Fox. Now keep in mind, we're talking about a fully upgraded Soloist GT here, so if you've heard the standard GT, whether it's the pre-2023 version, or if you go to the 2023 version that's not upgraded, each of those amps is at a slightly different level. So the OG Soloist GT is here, you then go to the 2023 stock version is a little bit better, and then the upgraded 2023 version is even better again. So I'm talking about the maximum version. I haven't bothered going through the testing to see how the Silver Fox compares to each of the lower levels of the GT, because by that point, we're starting to get quite a significant gulf in price. And indeed, we're still talking $1,000 between the fully upgraded 3X GT, the one that's in my rack, not this one here, that's the 3GT, but whether it's the 3GT or the 3X GT, a fully upgraded version of the Soloist GT from 2023 onwards, that's going to be a better amplifier than the $4,000 Silver Fox, and it's smaller, more compact, etc. Having said that, before you think that means that everybody should go out and just buy themselves a GT, there are benefits in the Silver Fox. The Silver Fox, as I said, is a wonderful, wonderful amp both to interact with. I love all the connections that it's got on the front, so if you've got a 4.4mm or a 4-pin XLR or 3-pin XLR for that matter, if you've got dual 3-pin XLR, you can plug any of those into here. I do like that. I love the volume control, I love the interface, it's a nice simple interface, there's just 3 buttons to worry about. In the case of the Burson, you do have to go through menu system to change things around, I'm not as much a fan of that. And so there's definitely benefits to the Silver Fox, and it's not just about the looks and the versatility and the interface, it's also because it's a very smooth but enjoyable sounding amplifier. It's technically strong, but also very refined. And so there will be some of you out there that will absolutely prefer the sound of the Silver Fox over either the GT or even the Enleum. And that's, as I said before, those of you that have a headphone that needs a bit of extra kind of smoothness or body to its sound. Even headphones like the ZMF Caldera, the ZMF Verite Open, I do sometimes find myself preferring from the Silver Fox. So I think it's absolutely a headphone amp that some of you are going to adore. I really, really like it. It's one of those amps that I want to have an excuse and a reason to keep because I thoroughly enjoy it. But when it comes to the pure kind of technical head-to-head, I can't help but end up going back to the Soloist GT and or the Enleum AMP-23R. And so I'm going to draw this to a close by saying that I think the Silver Fox is lovely. It's a headphone amp that I can see people absolutely just enjoying having in their system. But I also think that if you're someone that's looking for the maximum transparency, the maximum sense of space and clarity in the sound, it's probably not the last word in that area. It's more the last word in refinement, enjoyment, easy listening, and I don't mean that as a backhanded compliment. I mean it is wonderfully enjoyable if you just want to plug in any headphone that's not low impedance dynamic, at least, any headphone, and just sit back and enjoy beautiful, beautiful sound. The ability to then also tweak things like those different modes to maybe bring forward a bit of emphasis in the vocals, particularly female vocals, it's absolutely wonderful. And so that's where I think it really has its strength and is going to suit some people incredibly well. Susvara users, I think this would be an absolute dream pairing with a Susvara, and probably a BIS 1266 too. And so I'm going to leave things there. I hope you found this comparison shed some extra light and clarity on your decision making if you're interested in the Silver Fox, or maybe just explain it more if you were curious. And as always, if you have found the video useful, interesting, etc., please hit the like button and also subscribe and ring the notification bell if you haven't already. For now though, let me leave it to the music, so happy listening, and I'll see you here next time on Passion for Sound.